Hey folks, doing this video on making a holster for my Smith & Wesson 460V revolver. I thought I'd start out just showing you what the end product was, how it looks, how it clips on there, will not go anywhere, holsters and unholsters just perfectly, so it works very good. You can see close up, I don't think it looks half bad. One thing that was surprising to me is I thought when I bought this 460 Smith & Wesson V model, I thought it would be too big and awkward to actually carry. But as you can see, it's not bad at all. It doesn't leave that much of a profile. The gun weighs a little bit, but this heavy duty Kydex holster and the way it clips on the belt, it's not going to go anywhere. So Texas has recently made open carry legal, so I think when I'm out camping and fishing and that kind of stuff out in the woods, I'm going to have this on my side. Why not have a big 460 that'll stop anything with you when you're out and about like that, camping and fishing and that kind of stuff. I don't hunt, so I don't need this big old 460 for hunting, but it'd make it's a great self-defense weapon when you're out in the wilderness for sure. It'll stop anything that comes at you. So in any event, that's the end product. Now let me show you how I make it. Okay, let's try to go over the basics of this. Just show you the profile. You can see the belt clip itself is just made out of the existing Kydex material. This is 0.060 thick Kydex material. When you're making this, I'll show you here in a little bit, you leave extra up here so that you can cut you out a flap to bend over in this fashion. But as you can see, that's kind of spring loaded. It slides down over your belt, and then that bottom lip right there catches on the belt. So when you're pulling it up, that'll catch on the bottom of the belt, will not allow the holster to pull out. As you can see, making your own holster, that is solid as a rock in that holster. The good thing about making your own is you can heat this Kydex material so where it gets the perfect retention for whatever gun you're wanting to use. So it's not too tight, but it's in there very firm, will not wiggle around, will not move around, yet holsters out and in very easily. So basically I'm just using 0.060 thick Kydex material. It's got kind of a roughish texture on the outside, a smooth texture on the inside. And this works extremely good. You don't need any thicker material. I'm using good heavy duty brass rivets. I'm going to put a link to the Kydex material, the rivets, and the little rivet tool that you can use to do this. The rivet tool costs a few bucks, but the Kydex material and the rivets themselves don't cost nothing. And the little tool is just a one-time investment. I think it was like 30 bucks for the little rivet tool. So you can make all your holsters from here on out if you like. I don't think it looks too bad either. You know, a lot of the professional holsters you buy, everything's completely form-fitted. You see every seam in the gun. I don't like that because them guns do not holster right to me, because it goes with every nook and cranny on the gun. It makes it harder to draw, if you ask me. I like it better this way, where it's generally form-fitted and I can heat it and form it just exactly the right amount to get exactly the right tension I want on there, but yet it's not going to wear too much on the gun and it's real easy to pull. So in any event, you see how the gun fits in there. Now to make this holster, essentially, now usually I'd start out with a longer sheet here, but I've already made the holster, so I'm not actually going to be making it in this case. But what you do is I lay the gun, for this particular gun, I lay the gun down in here with the barrel even on the bottom. And then what you do is you just heat up this Kydex material, and once it gets heated to the right temperature with your heat gun, all you need is a standard heat gun, then you fold this over on top of this. As you're folding it over, you go ahead and heat it on the top side and kind of form fit it in there. You just take your time, heat a little bit up. What you do is you use a towel on top of the Kydex material to push it down in to kind of mold it into the gun. This is your craftsmanship. Just you take your time, form it exactly the way you want to form it. When you do that, this end will be completely flat over against here, and you'll be formed into the gun. Then when you do that, what you'll do is you'll cut out so you got it formed over like this. This sheet forms all the way over on top of there. Then you're gonna take, I just take a little black marker, it does show up on this Kydex material, and you just draw your pattern across here. In this case, I wanted the Kydex to come up just above the edge of the cylinder there. So then you cut around here, or mark a line all the way across there. And remember, this is all folded over, and it's way bigger than it needs to be to begin with. And then you mark through here, and you see on the back side, this flap is actually sticking up on this back piece. So that's sticking up, but you'll just cut straight up on the material about that wide to leave you a belt clip to make. And then you continue over on here. And then on this side, where both sides are laid together, you just kind of roughly trim that out in the shape that you want. As you can see on this is kind of how I trimmed it out on the gun. That's how the gun fits in there. So just do the rough trimming. Leave you a little bit extra, because you're when you do the final form fitting, the edges will shift a little bit, and at the end you want to cut it off nice and smooth. So in any event, you just do that. You get this folded over. You cut out the shapes that you want. On the edge here, that's where the gun cylinder goes down in there. If you don't flare out that edge a little bit, you'll catch on the edge of that cylinder when you're holstering it. Okay, so what you do is you just take the heat gun, just heat up right there on that very edge, just enough to barely soften that Kydex material up, and then you just take your finger and you smooth that edge over so that it flares out a little bit right where that cylinder of the gun is going to go down in there. And as you can see, it will not catch on there. You don't have to be looking at your holster to holster. You just get the barrel started in there, and that gun will holster right in there. So that's very easy to do. Once you've done that part, remember this flap is laying out flat here. What you do is you heat up the very end of it, and then use a rod, something like this. Remember that flap's laying straight up out here, so you just heat up the very tip of it, and you fold this end piece right around this rod. See how that rod's in there? Now remember, this is out flat still at this point, and you just fold that tip around there. Usually a wash rag or something, because that when you heat up that Kydex, it gets a little bit hot. But just hold it in that shape right around that rod until it cools, and then you've got the bottom portion of that belt loop. All right. Now once you've done that round part on top, now it's time to heat up the area right in here on the Kydex. You just take your heat gun, heat it up, and then you're going to fold the whole thing down and over. Kind of hold your fingers like this once it's got into place until it completely cools. Once you do that, you're putting a little bit of downward pressure on it. Once that Kydex fully cools, as you can see, it stays flat against there, and it gives you some spring tension. So now that just slides, your belt slides right up in there, and then it catches on your belt. So that makes it very easy to holster. You just slip this between your pants and your belt, and you're holstered. Because it goes back against there when you go to draw your gun, that catches on the bottom of your belt, and the holster stays in place. Very easy to do. This is so lightweight. Now the gun itself, the Smith & Wesson 460V, weighs a bit, but this Kydex material and the belt loop and everything else is more than tough enough to do all that. Okay, now once you got your basic shape, you got this bent over, you got your basic shape, you kind of got it cut out to the rough dimensions of what you want. You flared out this top end. Now's when you do, now's what we're going to do is put the rivets in. It feels like it's fitting right, but without these two halves riveted together, you can't really tell the retention and the draw yet. So what you do is just mark out along the edge where you think the rivets need to go. Now one thing to keep in mind is there's a die that goes on the front side of this rivet, like so. So you want to leave enough flat room here so that that die will fit on there. Like that's about as close as you can get to any ridge right there. So you wouldn't want to have the rivets in any closer to that ridge, because then you wouldn't be able to put the die flat against there to smash your rivets out flat like you need to. So just here again, I just mark the center dots, make sure I got enough room for this die to fit in place. Now once you use a 3/16 inch drill bit, and here again I'll give you the link for the right size rivets and the rivet tool and everything. But you get the right size brass rivet here, like so. When you drill that you use a 3/16 inch drill bit. When you drill that hole in there, you just stick the good side of the rivet is the side that's going to be facing out on the gun. So this is the side that faces out on the gun. This is the side that goes against your belt. So you'd want to take and push it in from the good side, because it's a little bit bigger ring on this side of the rivet than what it is on the other side. I'll show you. That's the good side rivet. There's not much difference, but you can tell a little bit of difference. That's the side that you actually crimp down. So it's a little bit smaller ring. So this is the dress side. This is the side that looks better, and that's the side you insert your rivets in from. Drill one hole at a time. Insert your rivet in there, and then when you do that, you've got your die here that goes in the bottom. You got the little ring there on the bottom that slicks down in the hole. That holds that exactly in line. Then you're going to set this down on a flat surface, like so. You stick this part of the rivet tool down in there, and then you just set that whole clip down on the bench. And I don't have my hammer. And then you simply take this, hit it a few times, make sure that rivet's nice and flattened out. Then you pull that out and the rivet's in place. Do it one hole at a time. And the reason I say that is because if you try to drill all the holes at once, then as you start riveting it together, this material's shifting a little bit as you're doing this. The next hole won't line up. So drill a hole here, rivet it, determine where your next hole is going to be. You can space these out more or less or whatever. I just like to do a lot of them there to make sure that this thing's never going to break apart on me. I could have just done 3 of them in there. It probably would have been just perfectly fine. On some of my 9mm guns, that's what I've done, is just have 3 rivets. But on this bigger, heavier gun, I decided I'd go extra just to make sure it's safe. But in any event, do one at a time. Smash them down with your rivet tool. When you have that done, it may fit perfect. This one that I made, after I riveted it down, I just absolutely loved exactly how the draw was. So I didn't have to do any more heat fitting. In the other holsters that I've made for some of my other guns, once I get them rivets in place, now I have to heat the Kydex material and kind of form it. And here again, like I said, just heat it. You use a towel over top of it, push in there. If you got an area that's too tight, catching too much, then you can heat it up, and the plastic will kind of expand on its own, and it'll release some of the pressure. So you just play with it until you get exactly perfect fit you want. No slop, but yet pulls extremely easy. Now when I make it, when I'm forming it, you can see that this backside that's against the body is more flat. Now it conforms a little bit with the cylinder here. You see, it does conform with the cylinder, but overall this is all just a lot flatter because that's the part that's laying against your body. On this side, it sticks out more. So you can form both sides just by your heating and how much you press in or out. So bottom line is you can make it exactly how you want it. The way I like this one was to have this side pretty flat with just a little bit of a bump there where the cylinder is, and it kind of coincides with exactly where the belt clip's in, which works out good. So it's basically flat on this side. It's more contoured and concave on this side to the form with the gun, and everything is perfect. I think it looks pretty decent. This 460 actually ended up surprising me. It's going to be a very easy gun to wear on my side, particularly now that Texas has made open carry legal for us now. So when I'm out hunting and fishing, this is going to be my baby. And I've got a nice holster that didn't cost me very much at all, but it's probably better than any damn holster you can find for this gun commercially. So in any event, hopefully that'll help some people out if you decide you might want to make your own holster. Thanks. There's a couple things I forgot to show you. Another thing that you'll need is some sort of shears. This is just a cheapy pair from Home Depot. Works perfectly fine. But this Kydex, even though it's not that thick, it's a little bit tough to cut with regular scissors. But this will cut, a little pair of shears will cut it just fine. That's what you do. That's what you need to do your final trimming here. And then the other item, I use a little Dremel tool with this rough, it's like a polishing wheel, but it's rougher grade. And what I use that for is to do the final grinding on the edge to perfectly smooth out the edges of the Kydex. When you first cut it with this shears, it leaves a rough, ragged edge on there. So I use the Dremel tool. Just fire up the Dremel tool, and you do this number on it. You can completely contour and smooth it out with this wheel. Leaves a pretty smooth edge on there. So that's to knock out all the rough edges and basically sand it smooth. So that works great for this. So anyhow, I forgot to show those items. That's the other items you'll need if you're planning on making your own holster. But keep in mind, when you get this stuff, you can make the holsters for all your guns and have every gun you own with its own custom holster so that it draws and retains and everything just exactly like you want. So, in any event, that's it. I hope this was helpful to somebody.